Good evening, viewers. I'm Donald Okumbo. I'm your host for today. Welcome back to our program and welcome to Integration TV Switzerland. And today we have a very special guest and author, Dr. Mrs. EBERE NWEZE from Sweden. Welcome, good to have you on our program.
Thank you so much, Donald, for having me. I'm so delighted to join you this evening all the way from Stockholm.
Wow.
And I'm so appreciative of the fact that you could invite me to your channel.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much. I've gone through some of your wonderful and intriguing books, and the one that really caught my attention, Unnoted. But before we get deeply into more discussion, could you please tell us about some of the books you've written expansively?
Thank you so much. Thank you again. I have written 2 full novels, and I have co-authored 2 other books. And you have the 2 that are my sole books, and those are the ones that I'm sure you want to talk about.
Very good, exactly. That's we have the NWEZE War and Unnoted. That Unnoted was so captivating. I've gone through some of the summary, just the preamble of faith. And what really motivates you to write such a book that is so connecting?
Thank you. Unnoted is a book I was very passionate about writing, because I know that what happened in the book is a general human condition that happened to people, whether they are men or women. And my protagonist is a woman, but also it could have been a man. So I was excited and was passionate about writing about the issues that I discussed in the novel. And well, that motivated me, because there are things that happen all the time, and sometimes people are not able to voice those things out. So I felt that people should read about those issues and learn some lessons from them, and also be able to avoid some of the booby traps that were very well explained in that novel.
Interesting. And that takes me to my first question, Dr. EBERE. Today, marriages seems to be more difficult like never before. But why do we have more unsuccessful marriages today unlike before?
I think so many factors contribute to that. And in the book, I did mention a few of them. There are individual situations that can occur within marriages, even before the marriages. And there are also societal pressures that could also impact on marriages. But invariably, I think everybody has a kind of responsibility to be able to own up to the decisions that they have taken all by themselves.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And marriage is an endless institution. We learn new things every day in marriages. And now we've observed that, you know, most couples who are often unhappy in marriages find it very difficult to say goodbye, particularly in our own culture in Africa. Unlike here in the Western world, that wouldn't waste much time to say goodbye once things aren't working their own way. But in Africa, why do you think it's very difficult for us to, we know things aren't working, but still we just, particularly when kids are involved?
Yes, you've talked about when kids are involved, but most importantly, in our societies, marriages are not just between 2 people. We have the two people involved.
The families,
But it's
exactly.
families, and the families that I talk about are not just your immediate families, your friends who have also become families, and
Exactly.
also your spiritual family, and then the society in general. Everybody expects very highly um, of you and of the relationship, and nobody actually gets into marriage and decides that it's going to end. If not, people will not get into it. So we have different factors that affect marriages. And then in our society, there is also the stigma that goes with a marriage that has failed, and no matter what's happened in that marriage. So, in that way, most people will want to avoid that embarrassment, they want to avoid the shame, they want to avoid the blame game, and they would rather stay there. And I don't know, but that's one of the reasons.
Yeah,
We come from a culture of shame and embarrassment, and people don't want to be associated with that. And sometimes also your family, because when we don't have things that you have individual responsibility only within our society. Whatever you do kind of also affects your whole family, and you hear people saying, "Oh, don't embarrass our family, don't bring shame to our family. It has never happened like this in our family," and all of that. And people stay there. And then, sincerely, people want their marriages to work. People want their marriages to last for as long as they live. And people keep working on it. I will think that people are more patient, people are more tolerant, people are more determined, and probably also more committed in to make it work. Uh, I think those are some of the factors.
Exactly. And you said something about beliefs, and that takes me to religion. How much influence do you think religion should have on marriages? How much influence? Do you think it's right for couples to listen to their pastors or reverend or their religious fathers? What's your take on that?
Of course, it is important to listen to your pastors. Marriage, as we know it, is something that was instituted by God from the beginning. He
Exactly.
instituted marriage, and he designed it to be such a loving and such a caring and such a fulfilling relationship. That was what he designed it for. And people need to listen to their religious leaders, to their religious counselors who actually tell them about the purpose of God for marriage.
Exactly.
To that extent, people should listen. And if the people who are involved in the marriage are really really committed to God and committed, and when I talk about religion right now, I will talk about the one I know, which is Christianity, which I am a Christian, and I will know that if two people who are in a marriage are committed to obeying God, obeying what God wants marriage to be, companionship, a loving relationship, a caring relationship, and those two people are willing and they want to, even if they have problems in their marriage, and are willing to work with their pastors, with their religious counselors that are telling them the right thing that God has proposed for marriage, then it would work. It would work. So I would think that people should listen.
Good. Exactly. Thank you very much, Matt. That was really, really interesting to know. And, even the Bible says a marriage is not a temporary thing, it's a lifelong institution. Now, as a Christian, based on your own belief, do you think it is right for couples who are uncomfortable in their marriage to go their separate ways? In other words, to be divorced?
It depends on what you mean by comfort. We have different levels of being uncomfortable in one's relationship.
Exactly.
We live here in the West, and no matter how much that relationship is binding, nobody will advise anybody to stay in a relationship that is abusive and that can lead to death. or can
Exactly.
lead to permanent harm, uh,
Violence.
maybe on violence and all of that. And on that basis, because God didn't intend it to be that way. He didn't intend it to be that way, because when we talk about it's going to last forever, fine, that is ideal. That's what God intended it to be. But we are in a flawed world, and I wouldn't think it would be right for people to be in relationship that can cost their lives, because when they are dead or when they are gone, the marriage is finished and it's over. But what you talked about, discomfort, discomfort is not something, ending a marriage or moving away from a marriage or even separating from a marriage for a while. It's not something that can be done with frivolity. That's why
Exactly.
I say it depends on the degree of discomfort. So I won't sit here and say that if somebody has a discomfort, because what means discomfort for one person might be different for another person. Maybe
Exactly.
somebody, what is discomfort for them is that, oh, my spouse snores when they sleep, and it's discomforting to me, so I'm going to walk away from the relationship. So talking discomfort is a very general and broad term, and I wouldn't use it. But I would say that if instead of staying in a marriage and dying in it, then the person should take a walk, and then there should be a separation until when they figure things out. Or if it's not something that can ever be solved, and one person is going to be harmed terribly or going to die from it, then it's not worth the person staying in it. The
Exactly.
discomfort is a broad term, and I wouldn't use it.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Your two books, Unnotted and Onruwa's War, are deeply discussed about relationship, affairs, marriage, and marital sanity. And today, almost globally, but particularly in Africa, where we're coming from, most of our women who are already of the marital age are under societal pressure to get married, either good or bad. And this often is one of the reasons that they get distracted in really studying the marriage, the man very well before they get into it. So what would you advise those women who are under societal pressure to get married at all costs?
Well, I think we can't change society as a collective. We can't say, okay, the whole concern
Exactly.
or the whole stress about society, but we can change one person at a time. We can
Individually.
change as
Exactly.
individuals. We can change ourselves. We can say, when you have something that is meaningful and you have value for yourself, and you are living a life that adds value to you, then you should be careful before you get into a relationship. The pressures are there. And there are also so many other things that we are pressured about, but we don't necessarily go to do them because we are pressured about them. Because this one is a relationship that will impact your life forever. Is a relationship that will change things about you. And one shouldn't succumb to such pressures. And one of the ways to not succumb to such pressures is to have value for yourself as a person, and to
Exactly.
also do other things. Don't sit waiting. If you have a career, go on with it. If you
Exactly.
have to acquire knowledge, go on with it. Don't sit waiting and for that man to come. He will come, or that woman to come, because when we are talking about the pressure, men are also under pressure.
Exactly.
Because you are a man, and I would think that once in a while, maybe before you marry, when you come home and you give something to your mom will collect it, but your mom will still
Exactly.
tell you, this thing you're giving me is not really what I want. I want to carry my own grandchild. I want
Exactly.
you to have a wife. So men are also under pressure. It's not on one side, but we shouldn't jump into things that we are not ready for, things that we are not sure about, because we are under pressure. Because there are so many other things that we are also under pressure to do, but we still manage to wait and to take our time to do them. So the pressure is there, is real, And probably also, we should also be able to talk to people within our family. Don't put such pressure. Let this person get ready. When they are ready, when they have found the right person, when they have been able to add value. Because I tell you, if you don't add value to yourself and you jump into a relationship, you might end up being frustrated. You might end up also not adding value
Exactly.
to that relationship. And not adding value to a relationship might also contribute to having problems within that relationship.
Exactly. I so much agree with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mrs. EBERE Wednesday. We are learning a whole lot, and your book are so inspiring. I'm definitely going to get hold of one, particularly this Unnoted. And how long does it take you to write a book?
It depends. Writing a book is not uh, when you actually put the pen on paper. That is when the book is formed. That's you are already forming the book. But you could have the idea for years. You could have the idea for months. You could have been wanting to do that, and until when the time is opportune, when you really sit down to write. So sometimes it could take, you could write for 1 year, you could write for 6 months, but just putting pen on paper is just the very step to writing the book. Because
Exactly.
before you can read it, there has been about maybe 7, 8 versions and drafts about it. So you could sit down and write a book if you have the time. Maybe you have, as I'm talking to you now, maybe you want to give me a sabbatical scholarship so that I don't work for 3 months. I'll write a book. I'll finish a
Okay.
book.
Wow. Interesting.
I'll finish a book. But finishing that book is just the first stage of the book. It has to go through a
A
whole
lot of
lot
processes. Yeah.
of processes with your publishers.
Exactly.
The publishers have to be engaged, the editors, the readers having to go through so many versions of readings,
I can
and
imagine.
before you can think of even publishing it. So it takes a whole lot of time.
A
You
lot of
can
time.
write a book in 6 months, you can write a book in 1 year, but you may not be able to publish it. You can
Exactly.
also write a book in 1 month, but it takes this process to be able to publish. But what is important is that you keep writing, you keep the idea going, you keep the pen flowing. One day it becomes a book, because it cannot become a book if you're just thinking about it. You will have to
Exactly.
write.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Dr. EBERE. And that takes me to another question. Writing and reading. These are two things that are very connected. You know, today in Nigeria, we have a very bad reading culture. Richard Steele once said, reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. How would you encourage Nigeria to develop a very good reading habit?
Um, I don't know. I don't think it's just a problem that is peculiar with Nigeria. I think it's a problem that is peculiar with the digital age. So people
Exactly.
have,
Yeah. Sorry for that. That's very correct. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So people have gadgets, and of course, it's always easier to watch something than to read it, because when you're reading, you're engaging so much of your brain
Emotions.
and
Yeah.
emotions to
It's more
imagine what is
emotional.
happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it's something we need to keep encouraging people to do. But with the advent of technology, when people are clutching mobile phones
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
1,000 things to watch and 1,000 things to all different platforms to connect to. I used to say something to my husband. I said, in the next 20 years, the sickness that will be so visible with people is that something will be happening to the neck bone and to the back, because you get into the train and everybody is bending over their phone,
Exactly. Yeah.
that something is uh, going wrong. But as for uh, also making people and encouraging people to read, I think it's something that we need to be very, very intentional about. I don't know whether the libraries are working these days, or if we can have in communities, we can have reading competitions, and
Exactly.
people, yeah, you keep the book there. Probably they don't take it home.
Wow.
If they have to come and read 2 days, 2 hours every day, physical books, because I don't want people to read books digitally. I
Digital.
work with a computer, and I know that sometimes when you're trying to read something, something pops up, and you go and look at the website, or you go
Exactly.
and listen,
That's a disadvantage. Yeah.
and you go and listen to news and all that. Within the church where my husband pastors, we devised something from last summer for the teenagers. We have what is called summer reading competition, and it has
Beautiful.
to be physical books.
Beautiful.
So I buy these books before the time and I read all of them. Then I announce it. Young people register and they get the books. And these are books that do not have reviews online, so that they don't go there and copy the reviews without reading the books. So you have to read that book, and you have to retell the story, and you have to talk about 5 characters and what they did in the story. You have to say what you learned from the story, how you use what you learned to help other people.
Exactly.
People get prizes, they get certificates, and they get cash prizes that they'll have to spend anyhow they like. So the young people look forward to that from ages 10 to 15. At least during that 1 month, people are to read books. And then we also need to work on literacy, because we have a lot of people who are not literate that will not be able to read. And so probably we need to think of uh, starting adult education centers where people can borrow light books and read and talk about. And of course, before we can do that, we need to teach literacy. And there are so
Exactly.
many. If you read my bio, one of the bodies that teaches literacy, helps adults to read, to do literacy, is the Optimal Path and Hope Alive um, um, NGOs. So we they teach literacy, and people can be taught how to read, and then people can be given that challenge to be able to read. But it's not just a Nigerian condition, it's not just an African condition. I think it's a world condition,
Well, global.
because even here where I teach, students don't want to read. They just want
Yeah.
to read the chapters and the
Digital.
pages that
Exactly.
they have to read to pass an
Yeah.
exam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's very true. Thank you very much, Dr. Mr. Berry. That was so inspiring. I use Nigeria as an example because I know years back Nigeria used to be, a nation of vast readers, unlike today, and as the most populous black nations. You are very correct. It is indeed a global thing, and nothing like flipping pages when reading, and that I find so interesting. So we're going to get back to your first book, Unknoted: Marriages, Relationship, Coming Together as One. And do you believe, or do you have the opinion that it is better not to get into marriage at all, not to get married, than to enter a marriage that you know is never going to work?
Um, in fact, Unknoted is my second book.
Oh, your
So
second book. Okay, sorry for
I
that.
think
Okay.
that's the one you
Unlimited.
love.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
can
I
talk about
mean, I'm gonna get one of it soon. I mean, it's so inspiring. It is very connecting. So,
it.
what's your
I
take
think
on
it's
that?
my take on it is that people should be careful, and I also don't think that people really get into marriages thinking it will not work. That's why people
Exactly.
stay thinking
You're
it's not
right.
working.
Exactly.
Um, I don't think so. I don't think anybody would know that somewhere along the line,
It
in the
won't
next 2
work.
years, 3 years, five
Yes,
years,
again.
this relationship will not work, and they will walk into it. Um, Everybody, that even when people see the signs that there are some things that are wrong, I think people keep hoping that those things are going to change, or they keep hoping that they will be able to endure or pull through with those things. But to answer your question directly, it's better to end an
Abstain from it.
engagement. Yeah, to
Exactly.
end an engagement that to end a marriage, because when you are engaged, the whole commitment, you've not gone through the whole way. And if there is a problem and you feel that there are irreconcilable differences, why not? Everybody should walk away. It's better to walk away than to go through that part of pain that probably eventually they will still walk away from each other, or they stay there and they endure what is supposed to be enjoyed. So to answer your question bluntly, yeah, it's the right thing to do if one feels that this is not going to work, and I'm not willing to, even if one person is willing to work on that particular issue, it takes two
To
to look
tango.
for a good to tango. So if the other person
Exactly.
is not willing, it's still going to be a problem.
Very
So,
exactly.
and probably that's when I would think that people that are going to advise the people when they're engaged, they should be able to tell them and sit down. This is what you talked about. This is what you are concerned about. Are you really sure you will? This thing can be fixed, or you will endure it, or it can be worked on. Is your partner also willing to work on it? And it has to be an honest conversation with either a friend or maybe a spiritual counselor who will be able to give the right um, advice, or a friend. But the problem also is that sometimes people don't open up to these things, especially when they're under pressure to get into that relationship. Just like we talked about it, they feel thinking, I will manage it, I will manage it, and you know that the things that these problems are easier to spot where we live, because marriages are really between the two individuals
Exactly.
primarily. Your families, maybe your whole extended family, your siblings are not living with you, and they're a little bit removed. So it's easier to spot those things than when you are in that background where it's like everybody's enduring everything, and you think it's the normal thing to this is how it should be.
Exactly. You're
The
right.
other person is probably around you, is going through the same thing, and the abnormal thing becomes normal. And when you complain about it, people wonder why you should. This is not something you should complain about, because everybody is going
I think,
through it.
well, what you just said now is going to drag me to my second, my other questions. You know, in every relationship, during courtship, the signals are always there. If a marriage is going to work, how healthy a marriage is going to be, you definitely see the signals during courtship. And I've spoken with a lot of friends of mine, and some of them often blame the challenging marital system in some part of the world, like in Africa. They often blame it on modernization, like the Western culture. They will say, wow, yesteryears, our mothers didn't argue with our fathers. They lived peacefully. So do you think modernization is also playing a role to the huge number of unstable marriage, or this marriage with discomfort we're having today? What do you think, how much role modernization is playing?
What I think is that for that person who is making that type of argument about how their mothers didn't argue with their fathers, it was a different world at that time.
Exactly.
People's worlds were small, and probably their mothers also had mothers who even were treated, and they didn't think this was a bad treatment, because that was what this was prevalent in the society at that time. But that same person that is talking about that wouldn't also talk about how things have changed to improve people's lives and relationships. So we can't just take one aspect of modernization and we enjoy that aspect, and we don't also want to uh, um, give rise up to the challenges of living that the other aspect of that. So what I'm trying to say is that we can't blame modernization. Maybe modernization has helped to highlight some of the abuses that we are
Exactly.
overlooked.
People are not speaking out more. Yeah, that's very true.
Those things were there. And probably I'm just using mothers now, the person that talk to women now, but you know that when I talk, it could also be the other way around. There are also men who are the one who are suffering in the relationships.
Exactly.
It's not the women that suffer. Some men are also trying so much to make it work, and they are the ones making all the sacrifices, and the women are the ones who don't want it to work. So using women here is like a metaphor, but it could be any within the partner.
Exactly.
But let's the person that gave example of their fathers, probably their mothers also stayed home, never went work, went out. If you lived in Lagos and you are a woman and you're working, I'm using Nigeria that you said as an example, you will go out to work by 5 o'clock and you probably come back by 8 o'clock.
Very stressful.
You'll be stressed.
Exactly. I can imagine.
And it will be difficult probably to do all the house chores that you can do. And okay, where we live also here, we've heard people that will say, oh, it's because the woman came abroad. No, it's not. Probably not because the woman came out. It's also because she's working as you're working, and we all have 24 hours in a day. And if somebody goes out to work for 10 hours and comes back, and another person goes out to work for 10 hours and comes back, both bodies are tired, and both bodies should help to do things that will make for a good living. Because if only one person is doing that, that person is going to get so tired and stressed and irritated, and it's not going to work. And if you really love, two of you love each other, you should do things to reduce stress for the other person, not thinking of what the other person didn't do.
That's very, very brilliant. Thank you very much for that, because stress also has its effect in relationship. And someone once asked me a question that I want to put to you right now. He said, love and understanding, which is more critical to ensure a successful marriage? And I've seen so many couples that will tell you, I love, sometimes the men, they will tell you, I love my wife, but I can't just cope with her anymore. You know, I think love and understanding, these two are very, very critical. But which do you think is more important to ensure a successful marriage?
If you love someone, you would understand them.
Exactly.
Well, it cannot be one or the other. If you love someone, you would understand them. You would try to understand them. And even if there are things you don't understand about them, you will want to be patient.
Because the love is there.
Yeah, the love is there. You would want to ask them.
Exactly.
The premise is that there is love here. So even if this person is doing something that is wrong, probably they are not doing it out of a bad intention to do something wrong. So I don't want to choose between one or the other. If you love someone, you will understand them, or you will try to understand them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Very brilliant. And that's why the Bible says love covereth multitude of sins.
Yes.
And in conclusion, I mean, we could go on and on and on. In conclusion, I want you, how would you advise millions or billions of couples across the globe who are going through a lot of marital challenges? What would you advise them, and how would you advise them to cope? It's not an easy thing, because many are just there so that they won't face the societal stigma. What's your advice to them? In conclusion, thank you.
Yeah, my advice is to speak up. You must find that person who is a friend who would be able to listen to you. And you have to try and speak up and confide in someone that this is going on. And probably that person could also try to talk to both of you. It could be your pastor, it could be your very close friend that you need to say this is going on. Don't keep it all in, because the more you keep it all in, the more the other person, who is probably the aggressor, is being strengthened to continue in that aggression. That person might not even realize that this is not the way to go. I shouldn't be behaving this way. And with counseling and with opening up and having someone you can confide in, that is your friend. I don't mean someone that you can talk to and that person becomes a pipe that will, or a megaphone that will spread your matters all over the place. You must have a friend that you can talk to. I say, this is what is going on, and you will get the right counseling. And if the couples are willing, they should be able to talk to their, maybe if they are religious, to their spiritual mentors, or they should have
Exactly.
friends and hold them accountable. For example, you should be able to have a friend that will tell you, Donald, stop. Don't do this.
Exactly.
And you should be able to listen to that friend. If you don't have a friend that will get you to stop, then when you are supposed to stop, then it's hopeless. I know that I have friends that will tell me, Ebere, don't do this. And because I value the friendship, I value the relationship, no matter how pained their advice is, I'll try and listen to it and do it. So the couples that are out there, and they're having problems, they should talk to someone. But it has to be someone that is trusted. And then if it is violent and is a matter of life and death, probably they should also talk to someone and get counseling on what to do. Because I won't give a general advice because people's situations are different.
Exactly.
But they have people in their lives that are close and that can help them through the process of whatever they need to do at any particular point in time. That's what I would do. I will advise.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Dr. Mr. Berry. Thank you for your time. And as we come to conclusion, I'm so happy to have you, and we hope to connect with you again in the near future. Definitely, I'm going to order one of your books from Amazon, The Unknoted. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again. Thank you, and God bless.
And thank you for having me. Thank you.